We are up to Daf Lamed Hey of an Aleph. We are now learning the particular dinim of an esrog, and we began. And again, not all these dinim of esrog apply to the entire 7 days. Some apply only the first day, some apply the entire 7 days, and the machlek is showing which ones. Ray in the beginning told us that certain dinim like Kichat Tamad, you have to have all 4 minim and so on. That applies the whole thing, but and hadar, but other things, even chasar, even missing, is only for the first day according to Traces. Anyway, says the Gemara. First of all, tell about we learned. The Rosh and others already explained that we never had a doubt what an esrog is. Moshe Rabbeinu told what an esrog is, and that's how it's passed down from generation to generation. But what we're saying here is how is it marumas in the pasuk? The description of the pasuk, which is pre-8 hadar, the fruit of a tree hadar, which means pretty. So there are many tree fruits that mean pretty. The word esrog itself, they say, means nechmad, desirable and pretty. The Gemara says, pre-8 hadar, we'll do this again. We started this yesterday, we'll start again. Go through it quickly. Shatam 8 say the taste of the bark or the sap of the tree and the fruits are the same. How do we? I would say that's esrog. That's an esrog. In the beginning of the Torah, Rashi tells us that the Eibishter wanted that all the trees should be 8 pretty, and all the trees, the fruit of the tree should have the same taste. But at the end, the trees didn't listen. It was 8 oisa pretty, and the only tree that was left that was 8 pretty was the tree of esrog. Says the mother of any people maybe peppercorns because how we learned how to make it says the says the pasuk you plant a fruit tree first 3 years you're not allowed to eat it. So why do you have to say fruit tree? Just say a tree because we know you're not allowed to eat it. We're talking about fruits. Tata collates 80 days don't know it's Michael fruit tree. Ma Talmud limit 8 Michael fruit tree. 8 shatam 8 period sheva. We're talking about this to add another particular fruit that you would have thought is not included in this law of Arla. And the tree, that the taste of the tree, 8 says here, 8 Michael, the 8 and the Michael are the same. Aviyam is a pulpul of peppercorns. The lamnoch shapulpul chayavin ba'arla, the peppercorns are chayavin Arla, according to Rashi, is a very low lying tree, and according to Traces, because peppercorns have been having more humor already, some of them are not really edible, depending on the dry or they're wet. Wet, they're moist, they're edible. The dry, if you eat on your kippah, your potato, it's not really food. And we would have thought that since inevitably it's going to turn into something dry, so therefore even when it's moist, maybe it's not considered a fruit as far as Allah is concerned, and tell you that it is. And by the way, the ain't Ejshol is not missing anything. She said the says the Gemara, so how do you know maybe here the same thing? I said, no. Hasam should left, you have no brady, you have no choice. What else should you do? Ninkai chada only hold on to one peppercorn, it has to be recognizable, the kachtem, it should be taken, something mamashes, it's not really tangible. Ninkai today it was a 2 or 3. I'm not sure 2 or 3 how much more great that is than 1. It says echad amarachmana l'shnayim v'shleisha. It says pre-echad is singular, chad amarachmana, not 2 or 3. Okay. Rebbe says, I'll tell you, the word hadar doesn't necessarily mean pretty, but rather, atikar hadar, read it hadir, which is a flock. Mastada, a flock of sheep. When you have a flock of sheep, you have all kinds of ages. You have older ones, younger ones, and all kinds. And therefore, so what does it mean? Madir, just like you have a flock there in the pen. We have a whole mixture. All kinds, old, young, whole, blemished, unblemished. So true, and we need a fruit on the tree that you can have. Most trees, after when the fruit become ripe, they eventually fall off. But you need a tree that never falls off until you pick it. So these are, as a regular tree, you can have a new ones, old one, mature, overripe, underripe, blemished, not blemished, all hanging on the same tree. So like a deer, like this, the flock of sheep in a pen. What do you mean? Every fruit has, all on the same tree, you have different stages. When the next season comes along, the previous season is still hanging on the tree. Says the Gemara, I agree with your principle, but not the way you use the word hadar for hadir, for a flock or in a pen. I say, hadar ella hadar. It lives on the tree from year to year. It lives on the tree from year to year. So the same idea as Tani, Balamumin, and not Balamumin and Tmimim, but the word hadar is not hadir, but hadar is hadar. If something resides in the tree from season to season. Ben Azai says it's only in Droshes, not in Halach. Ben Azai says hadar Ella read it either. What's either? She came a Lashon Yevani because in Greek, Koyin Lemayim either. So the Torah is using a Greek word here, Pri Eitz which is quite fascinating. The Torah uses a Greek word, even though we already had, Odom Orishim Lashon Arami Siper. We have words in Torah, Yoga Sardusa, some word to toughest is Tat Bekaspi Shtayim, Tat Shtayim, and so on. So here we're having a Greek word included in the Torah, that is Hodor. Hodor is a Greek word which is either, which actually sounds very much like hydra. And the Ezehi, Shegodl al Kol Mayim, that it grows on all water, have the Oimez Esrik. It grows on all the water, it needs a lot of water. It needs irrigation water, it needs rainwater, it needs all kinds of water to keep it growing properly and to be bountiful. So therefore, the word Hadar is not beautiful, and not Hadar Bilona, not Hadir, but rather Adu or Ider, which is a Greek word which is water. Okay. The person of minute, except I told you yesterday, Kappas Tamarim says that Eitz Michael is one of the simonim of a kosher esrog, that the majority of the fruit is membrane. And then the Achreim have a Akira. Is that what makes it kosher, or is that just a sign that it comes from a kosher tree? In other words, if you know for sure there's an esrog that comes from a kosher tree, but it doesn't have that kind of membrane, is it still kosher? If it's purely as a sign, then we have a sign. As a Sam Sefer says that an esrog is like birds. The halachas is by birds. So today we need a masada before we can eat it. So too the Sam Sefer says when it comes to an esrog, we need a masada to and there he talks about Calabria, so we have a masada. We need a masada before, even though it has all the money, we need a masada to make sure that it's right. Even though it has all the force of money that are brought down in halacha. Says the Gemara, my time of why we have it already given to the because it's meant to be burned, is kituse mechteshir, as if it's crushed already, it's lacking in the shear. Then the Mishnah said when it comes to an essay, we show Arla Puzzle. Essay from Arla, the Mishnah says it's puzzle. Why should it be puzzle? You're not eating it. So what's the difference if you can eat it, you cannot eat it? Arla not only can I eat, it's also asabana. What's the difference? My time was plead the machlekes about oving, but asi chad. There's two different reasons. One is you cannot eat it because the Torah is lachem means that you should be able to eat it since it's not edible because asabachila and I know as well, and therefore you cannot. It's not, and we know that when it says something's asabana, the Rambam writes in Shnayis that the greatest in Chulin, the greatest hano that a person has is food, is eating it. So therefore, since you cannot eat it, it's not a kachta. The Chadam, and the other one says, "Lefisha ein bo din moment." It has no din of moment. What do you mean it has no din of moment? So Rashi says here that what do you mean ein no din moment? So Rashi says she'ein shava pruta. Right, no, the not worth a pruta. The isur ano has hilchach lav shalachem. Very important Rashi. Rashi holds the problem is that since it doesn't have the value of a pruta, it's not yours. In other words, Rashi holds, and he says Mefedish in Psachim and the Abba Beis. When the Gemara says that Eina B'Shusa, Rashi says Eina Shaloi. The reason why you can't have Mavatul Chametz after 12 o'clock is it's not your Shusa. Rashi says it's not yours. In other words, Rashi holds, like those Rishonim who hold and many other places, and it's like Tzais, and everyone talks about it. And that is, if Isuri Hana is still considered yours, or Isuri Hana means it's no longer yours. And the real question is, what does ownership mean? When you say that something belongs to me. Every single item is the essence of the item, and then there's the use of the item. The essence is the etzem, and the use is called the shtamshus. What exactly do you own when you make a kinyan and I'm the balabas or something? What kind of relation do I have? Is it that I have exclusive use of the exclusive use of it? The shtamshus, that's all I have. If that's pshat, in the moment you cannot use it anymore because asabah no. What makes it yours? It's like hefker. And that's what Rashi says here. Since it's not worth a pruta, and you cannot use it, therefore it's not lachem, it's not yours anymore. And he said the same thing that Chav Zayin Beis did about that sukkah. All Eden can sit in one sukkah. If it's not worth a pruta, it's not yours. But therefore it has to be borrowed. Other Rishonim, however, learn, and they have another pshat in the Gemara here. They hold that if it's even if you cannot use it, the essence when you make a kinyan, you're having a certain kind of a balabatish over the essence of the thing. So even though you can't use it, it's still yours. If somebody takes it, they're ganef. And here the pshat therefore is different. Says the Gemara, Kosaka Data before, we thought right now that there are mutually exclusive. The one that says the main criteria is eating leboidim. I mean, don't care has value. One leboidim. The one that says need money, leboid had chila doesn't care about if you can eat or not. So you want to ask a question. Now we learn. It says in our very Mishnah, truma tumeya. If it's tamid, they get truma as well. If you use an esek from truma that's tamid, which a kain cannot eat it, it's possible. Now, what's the problem there? It has value because you could burn it, and while you're burning it, you can enjoy the benefit of the fire. So obviously, it has value, but the problem is you cannot eat it. So the problem is if you cannot eat it by arlosh, it makes sense. Why by trumat you cannot use it either. It has no value. You can use it and cook it under your food and have benefit from it. Everyone agrees that you have to be able to eat it. No question about it. The argument is, the argument is that you also have to be able to use it. Everyone agrees you cannot use it because you cannot eat it. The question is in a case where you could eat it, but you don't really have value. Are you such an esek or not? They're arguing, but in moment, the only criteria that matters is whether you can eat it or not. So therefore, for example, esrig of Maisa Sheni, according to a mayor that holds that Maisa Sheni is moment gavayu belongs to Hashem. You cannot use it to give it to a woman to be kaddish because it's not yours. You have to take it's a duty bound to take it to Yerushalayim and eat it, and you're doing it on behalf of the Beit Eibush. It's not yours. So then by over here as well. If the main criteria is eating, you could use an esek of Ma'aser Sheni if you're in Yerushalayim. If the main criteria is yours, it's not yours. So din mama lebinin, marsala din mama nambi, the one who has to be yours. Might be not even Ma'aser Sheni Yerushalayim, as we just said. Ma'aser Sheni Yerushalayim according to the mayor. The problem is he cannot eat it today, but if you're in Yerushalayim, you can eat it. You had a machlekes Yerushalayim. If you're outside Yerushalayim, is it considered as if you could eat it because you can always bring it to Yerushalayim or not? Rashi clearly says only while you're in Yerushalayim. Well, the one who says because it has no value, Ma'aser Sheni Mama Gavayu. Ma'aser Sheni is considered Maman Gavaya. It's not yours, and therefore you cannot. This time we started off this whole sugi. One said this and one said that. We didn't know who said what. So the more I can conclude, this time Rab Asi is the one who says the fisha ain't but imam has to be valued. Don't Rab Asi. Esek shel Ma'aser Sheni. He says clearly, esek of Ma'aser Sheni, like according to the mayor who says it belongs to Hashem, ain't adam yetzer dechavase be yomtiv. You're not yetzer on yomtiv clearly because it's not yours. Rab Asi holds it has to be yours. The divrei chachamim, adam yetzer by dechavase be yetzer. This time, yes, it's a good conclusion. Gufa, let's analyze this din of Rab Asi. Rab Asi said, esek shel Ma'aser Sheni, and esek belongs to Ma'aser Sheni, which belongs to Hashem. According to the mayor, ain't nothing is going to be under be not yetzer. It's not yours. That's din number one. Din number two, matzah shel Ma'aser Sheni. What about matzah? Matzah of Ma'aser Sheni as well was not yours. Same thing. We'll discuss in a minute. Who said that matzah has to be yours in order to be yetzer? Third halacha is Isa shel Ma'aser Sheni, dough of Ma'aser Sheni when it comes to giving challah, so that Isa seichem has to be yours. The dibur is not yours. The dibur chachamim, according to chachamim, you could they hold Ma'aser Sheni belongs to you. Because I don't understand this thing of matzah. Let me say, understand by dough. It clearly says it has to be yours. Okay. Esig also. It says lachem, mishlachem. Esig lachem, has to be yours. Matzah. Me ksiv matzaschem. Where does the Torah anywhere say that the matzah has to be yours? Even it isn't yours, as long as it's kosher. It's not common. Why can't you use it? And there's no Shem Shemayim. Shema. We learn like lechem. The word lechem that says matzah, and the word lechem. See how here it says matzah is described as lechem oini. You have to eat. Yeshivas yom techem matzah lechem oini. So it's called bread of oini. We had different shots in the word oini. And there it says. When you eat melechem oretz, there it says when you eat melechem oretz, you give truma. Is malahalim, just like over there, and that's talking about challah there, just like over there by challah. Is mishalachem? We just said that he should say it has to be yours. It shouldn't be, let's say, from meiser or to other things. Afkan here too, mishalachem matzah has to be yours. So matzah has to be yours. So there's actually machlekes that showing that's the halacha l'meiser. Not if matzah has to be yours, and And because matzik zula, the Talmud talks about a matzik zula if you're yetzi, not yetzi. Remember I told you a few days ago the difference between kriya and Shabbos and stolen matzah, and even matzik zula. Some people say in the Shami that since when you chew it, you made a shinui, and the mitzvah of matzah only happens later. So therefore, maybe you are yetzi stolen matzah. But our Gemara doesn't mention anything about stolen matzah. Could very well be our Gemara holds that stolen matzah is all right because we don't need it to be lechem, and we have a different shot in the Gemara here. So in the Sfas Emes right over here, remember correctly, that and it's a big thing as well. Matzah has to be yours. So the Sfas Emes says if you have guests in your house on the Seder, you have to first be makna to them the matzah to make sure that talking about the matzah mitzvah of the first Yuzdarim, make sure that they have the matzah theirs before they eat the matzah. Says the Gemara, because it has to be lechem. To support Rab Asi's contention, it says, according to Meir clearly says that you are part of a challah because it's not yours. Because Ma'aser Sheni is Mama Gavoya. Hashem's going to say, says the Gemara, Leima Messiah, this is support. It's exactly what he said. It's not a support, it's exactly what he said. And what do you mean, Leima? Leima means maybe. What do you mean, perhaps? It's definite. The question is not 100%. Why not? Okay, here all we see they're arguing about regarding when it comes to challah. What about when it comes to Esther and Matzah? It's not clear. So can we automatically assume that the Hapligi is arguing by Ma'aser, by challah, they're arguing everything else? By Dilma, shiny, each of those different. It stresses twice. It's like Shalom over Kosel Akid. It says twice this thing over here is a second. So maybe that over here the Taylor Makpid has to have ownership for yours. But maybe by Essay and maybe by Matzah it doesn't. Maybe Matzah definitely doesn't. Says the Gemara further. Trumat Tmei Psula, Trumat Tmei is possible. We're continuing down the mission, trying to understand everything. Trumat Tmei is possible. Why is Trumat Tmei possible? Well, of course, we just said before that everyone agrees it has to be able to eat it. The less you cannot eat Trumat Tmei. The shall Trumat Tehora lo yitel, but Trumat Tehora you should not take. Now, what's wrong with Trumat Tehora? You can eat it. The kohen can eat it. If had a machlekes by in Erev and Sumchas and others, if a person is going to make a Tchum Shabbos, tchum, and you have to put food down, if a Yisrael puts down food of Truma, and a machlekes if it's good. The Chum say yes, because even though he cannot eat it, it can be eaten by a kohen. And Sumchas has to be able to be eaten by him. But over here, the question is, I'm not even getting involved with the kohen. Not a kohen. It says here, you should not use Truma Torah. Why not? Whether you're a kohen or according to everybody, or whether you're Yisrael, maybe according to Chamnat Sumchas, why can't you use Truma Torah for an essence? So you want to plead with Rabbi Mavasi, one of them says that they shemachshira, because what happens is the lulav is kept in water, and the lulav is wet. And when you take the esrog, you bring it close to the lulav, so the water will sprinkle on the esrog, and now you've taken an esrog of truma and you made it susceptible to mekabel truma. And we have to protect mishmeres truma. You have to protect my truma, not make it vulnerable. So therefore, that's the problem. You make it, you prepare now, ready it for truma. The other one says they shemachshira. The other one says is because since the esrog you use so often, you make it dirty. And truma, you have to protect, not make it dirty. Famous story about a person, his wife, very, very much wanted to become the Rav of the city. An opportunity came up, and the people in the city really wanted him to become the Rav, and they're pushing him. Otherwise, he was sitting all day and learning big Talmud Chacham. And this was Tishrei time. So that year, he spent a lot of money to buy a beautiful esrog, and he told his wife he's inviting the whole city to use his esrog. And the whole city came and used his esrog. And then at the end of Sukkot, he showed his wife, you see, when you Sukkot started, look what kind of beautiful esrog we had. It was yellow, it was ripe, it didn't have any blemishes. And now it's all filthy, dirty, brown, black. See what happens when something beautiful falls in the hands of a community? They tear them apart. Why would you want that to happen to me? So that's a mafsida. You dirty it up. My benai, what's the difference? So let's say you said this essay will be truma, except the outer shell, which means you can peel. Who cares the outer shell then is dirty? You can just peel it off. Because but he's setting it, preparing it for truma, then we do care. It's a solution. But because you're reading it lekker because you can just peel it off. It's the part that's become dirty is not truma. So he's still protecting the inside, which is all truma. And it said, but the ever even if we took the truma besek, it's shame, it's kosher. Why? The one who said before we said the problem by oil is that you cannot eat it. Well, this is a kohen can eat it. You can eat it. And Rashi said even Yisrael, you can give it to his grandson if his daughter marries a kohen. And the man amal if he ain't but din mammon. And the one who said that there's no din mammon had a yesh but din mammon. It has the value to it as well. The kohen can give it to him, and he can then sell it and do whatever he wants with it. So it does have value.
Awful.
Yeah.
Now with Perish Shvi, you got to be careful, and when you're peeling it all, you've got to put it away and so on and so forth, because it's got kedusha shvis. Truma doesn't have that same kedusha that you have to be careful with the peels.
You were talking about it here when you clearly when you were mafresh it, you have a choice what to be mafresh, right? It's up to me. So when I was mafresh it, I said I'm only being mafresh the inside of this truma, so it doesn't spread. It's not like a carbon. We say if you mafresh the leg of the carbon, it spreads throughout the entire animal. This is just, if you match part of it, it's fashion cooler. It doesn't say that about truma, because it's more I have control of what I'm mafresh. I always never understood, but every time we try to give an example how Yisrael can enjoy truma, we say he gives it to his grandson. Why does it never say he gives it to his son-in-law? His daughter married a kohen, he'll give it to his son-in-law. It's always his grandson. Like it's unheard of that anybody would give anything to their son-in-law. Anyway, Rashi here as well. But Rashi, interesting. Rashi says, if you look at Rashi, Rashi says, first of all, a coin, and even in Yisrael, Nami, nothing but could be Yaitza im Lokham a coin, took from a coin. Hoyle, it's talking about he took from a coin. If he didn't take the coin, it's not his, he has to give it to a coin. But Hoyle, the Yochel Hachil, Ben bit the coin, he can always give it to his grandson if his daughter married a coin. Our pigeon ain law. There's no such thing as being able to redeem truma and turn it back, revert it back to chulin. Leo's need teres lachilas itself for you to eat it. The ha'oim kain rashu. What's those 4 words of Rashi? The ha'oim kain rashu. What does that mean? Why anything you go against the Torah halacha you're Rasha? What does Rashi mean by these words? The ha'oim kain rashu. That you can be paid truma. It must be paraphrasing some Maimon Chazal. Says again about it further.
Maybe Rashi saw somewhere where there was people where back in the time of when Truma was Shayach, or people were trying to get around Truma and saying, well, I'll be paid it, and therefore it's chulim. Unless there was some issue like that.
In Rashi's time was Truma.
No, Rashi's time not, but Rashi maybe saw something somewhere.
Oh, okay. I'm saying it sounds like it's a Maimon Chazal somewhere. I don't know where, but it sounds like a Maimon Chazal. Okay. Then we continue going. It says here, the issue of the Mai. Big Machlekes how to learn Pshat Gemara, but learn Rashi. So the Mai, we said you couldn't use the Mai. The Mai is what you buy from Amoras. The question is whether they gave Maisa or not. Truma they definitely gave, and we say that the right people do give Maisa, but we don't know if this person gave Maisa or not. So therefore, when it comes to the Mai, when it comes to the Mai, my time, Bishami says he's not allowed to use the Mai, and Bishami says that he can use the Mai. What's going on and why can't you use the Mai? Remember, said if you cannot eat it, then you cannot use it. So why did he say you can use the Mai? Now, according to some, the fact that poor people can eat it is enough, because we just said, just like Yisrael, since a kohen can eat truma, Yisrael can do it. So we're here also. Anybody can do it because a poor person can eat it. But the Gemara goes further, and maybe we're trying to satisfy sumchas. We say here, even the eat by you yourself can eat it. Because sumchas says that the Yisrael cannot use the food. Maybe you yourself can eat. Why can you yourself eat it? Because even the eat by your mouth, you at 1 second, in 1 instant, you can become poor. But how you're a poor person, then you yourself is able to eat that. Is hashinam lechem tenin base. Even now we'll call it lechem. The Tanan we learned, and how do you know that a poor person can eat? Maybe nobody can eat except the mice. Ma'achilin et lanim the mice, it's exanya the mice. You're allowed to give the poor people the mice, and you're allowed to give the exanya the mice. Rashi learns that aniyim means any poor person, and aksanya means goyim, the army. And when the Chama made it easier, you can give them the Dmai. Taisa says no. Taisa says that we're talking about only a Talmud Chacham you can give to, and Aksanoi means only a Yid and not a Goy. Or it's actually a Machlekes and Tanoim. Taisa read Machlekes Tanoim Shalmi. If it has to be Dafka Yid or even Goyim as well. Rashi learns like the opinion they even going. So more right, Beshamai only even if you're poor, you cannot eat the mine. So therefore, you cannot use the essig of the mine. The Tanami learn machzul that is my best the mine. When Rabuna tell Beshamai, Beshamai says ein machzul is excelling the mine. Still is one who says machzul that is my best excelling the mine. Still is allowed to. Shammai doesn't agree, and therefore according to Shammai, it's not edible. And even if you can make yourself poor, it doesn't help. And that's why you're not creating such an essig. Doesn't matter further. Shal Maisa Sheni Shibir Shalayim, Maisa Sheni in Yerushalayim. The Mandam, the one who says Mipnei Shemachshira in Yerushalayim, the one who says that the problem is, what's it? We're saying again, the Chatchila you shouldn't, but if you did, it's all right. Right? The Chatchila should, but if you did, it's all right. Why Chatchila shouldn't be? What's the problem? You can eat it. Oh, the problem is before Truma. And by Maisa also you have to protect it. Because the problem is you're making it susceptible to tumah, the same thing. You're making it susceptible to tumah because we get wet from the lulim, and therefore it's a problem. So we don't want you to do it because Maisa Sheni also needs protection. And when you're ruining it, the same thing. Even not but is kosher. Again, it's like before. You cannot eat it, you have to according to everybody. Since in Yerushalayim you can eat Ma'aser Sheni, everyone knows you get to the Esrik, but in Mammon has the value of money Rabbanon. This follows Rabbanon because according to the Meir Tak, it's not yours, Ma'aser Sheni, because Rabbanon it is. Also, Chazaz, if it has boiled, we had the same expression a few days ago. This thing regarding the Hadas. If it's more than 2 couple of spots, he says same thing by an Esrik. This we say that if it has boils, it's no good. Our great teacher Rav said, "Hamokim yoyz should be able to help." When do we say that it's possible? Only if it's in one region. If it's in 2 or 3 places that looks like a pattern, then it's kosher. Then it's kosher because then it doesn't look anymore like it's the wrong place. On the contrary, it's 2 or 3 places. It looks like it's a polka dotted. It has full of blemishes. It's possible. Surely it's possible. Eli Yitmur Asayf Yitmur. His comment was not on the ratio when it's possible. His comment was on the Sefer when it's kosher. I'll mute the kosher. Only part of the essay is part of it is kosher. When you say if it's only part of the essay, it's possible only if it's only one region. But if it's everywhere, it's like it's like it's full of polka dotted. The apostle is possible. And on the nose, I feel the mashu nami puzzle. Even the slightest amount is puzzle. What's a chaytmai? The way the Rosh understood the Rashi. In Rashi itself, you don't really see that necessarily. Look at Rashi. Rashi is the last narrow line, the next last line. Rashi says, when the height of the Esrik, when it starts caving in, when it starts becoming a slope, and coming to a point, Misham, the Yoyed the Tzadrosha, and it goes towards the head. So the way you learn Parshat Rashi, it sounds like from that area where it starts, getting declining and going on a slope to the very top. But the Rosh understood Rashi, it's only that area, the widest part, as it's inclining, as it's going in a slope. And the Rosh argues, and he says that whole area. Others say Chaytmei actually means only mamash right next to the top, right next to the tip. So anyway, right? Took away the pestle. So what are we talking about over here? Interesting. Look at Rashi. Listen to Rashi inside. The 3 lines into the middle white line. The masnit to have a ton. This is a brisa. David added, what's a pitum? Lahai nitla pitmasa. He tells you what's a pitum buchanta. Buchanta is the pestle. Lefisha chad, because it's pointy, but also can mean buchna. It looks like a pestle. This is what we learned, which is the pitum. The way we learn the pitum is that's the pestle. Abu Rabbeinu Yitzchak Levi Levi learned pitmasei va'oitzei shneim bezana. He said this to oikets. So you have 2 parts. You have the pitum, which is on top. The pitum is part of the esrog, and the oikets is the stem that grows on the tree. So they learned that the pitum and the oikets are both in the same bottom part of the esrog, and the oikets is the part that's protruding from the esrog, and the pitum is the part that's inside the groove of the esrog. And according to them, according to Sabain commentaries in this long places here as well, according to some of these Rishonim, if the pitum falls off on sukkahs, it's not even possible. because since there's so many Esrogim don't even have a pitum, or falls up while it's growing, then pitum is not critical. They learned that both the pitum and the oikot is on the bottom of the esrog. Rashi says over here, Shnei bezonov oikot, both in the end. Oikot nitl eight masha chutel gumer. So the oikot we say is kosher. That's the part that's outside of that cavity. Kosher pit mosa. What's the pitum? Shenitl sha'oikot b'toich esrog v'choser. What's the pitum? Is the part of the stem which is inside the esrog. The fifth apostle is possible. That's why he calls that the pestle. That section of the oikot which is inside the esrog. It's like a pestle. A bang on the mortar. I like better the first shot. We don't find anywhere that a pitum is oikot. And the long face that it brings proves that we do. We do have this idea of a pitum and an oikot both on the same side. So big machlek is what exactly, even today everyone calls it pitum. Many of the Shainim would disagree. So just learn two more lines. Niklas, if the esrog was peeled, Omar Rabba says, Rabba, what happens if you have an esrog, highest the aglit that is peeled, ka'asina, kahina, what about that it was peeled, sumka, shayda? What about that it was peeled? And now it's like a hina sumka, like a red date. It is kosher. Still kosher. Because when you peel it, the color starts changing and it becomes red. Nickel puzzle. Mishnah clearly says that nickel is puzzle, like kasher, not a problem. Depends if all of it is peeled or part of it. Big machlekes is showing him how to understand. So Rashi clearly says if all of it is peeled, it's kasher. It doesn't look so bad. If part of it is peeled, it looks like it's full of blemishes. Others will proof a ket. If part of it is peeled, there's a chance it can grow back. If all of it is peeled, it's definitely puzzle and treif. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll continue tomorrow in Mitzvah.